The morning started like any other Tuesday for Jake Harrison. He was drinking coffee in his small office aboard the space station New Geneva when the alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed across every wall and ceiling. His coffee mug fell to the floor as he jumped up from his chair. Jake ran down the metal hallway toward the command center. Other officers were running too. Everyone looked scared. Jake had been in charge of Earth's defense for 3 years, but nothing like this had ever happened before. When he reached the command center, he saw something that made his blood freeze. On the big screen in front of him were 12 massive ships. They were not human ships. These vessels were 3 times bigger than anything Earth had ever built. They looked like giant metal triangles with sharp edges. Strange blue lights pulsed along their sides. The ships hung in space just outside Earth's moon like sleeping monsters. Amy Rodriguez was sitting at her desk, wearing her headphones. She was the best person on the station for talking to other worlds. She had learned 15 different alien languages in the past 5 years. Amy looked up at Jake with wide eyes. "Sir, they are trying to talk to us," she said. Her voice was shaking. "The message is coming through now." The big screen changed. Instead of showing the alien ships, it now showed a creature that looked nothing like a human. The alien was tall and thin with gray skin. Its head was long and narrow. 4 arms moved as it spoke. 2 large yellow eyes stared directly at Jake. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire," the creature said. Its voice was deep and cold. "We have come to claim this world for our people. Your species will surrender now, or we will take your planet by force." Jake felt his heart beating fast. He had trained for many different kinds of emergencies, but this was not one of them. Earth had no weapons that could fight ships that big. The aliens continued talking. "We are warriors of honor," Admiral Vextar said. "We do not simply destroy worlds without giving them a chance to fight. According to our ancient laws, we challenge your greatest fighters to combat. You will send your war machines to face ours on the surface of your world. If you win, we will leave. When we win, your people will serve us." The alien pointed one of its 4 arms at the screen. "You have one of your days to prepare. We will meet you in battle with our greatest mechs. Choose your location and send us the coordinates. If you refuse this challenge, we will burn your cities from space." The screen went black. The command center was completely quiet. Everyone stared at Jake, waiting for him to say something. Jake looked around the room at his team. These were good people, but they were not soldiers. Most of them were scientists and engineers who had come to space to study stars, not fight wars. "Get me Ryan Murphy on the line right now," Jake said. Ryan Murphy was in charge of Earth's only mech program. For the past 10 years, he'd been building large robot suits for construction work and mining operations on other planets. The mechs were big and strong, but they were not made for fighting. They were made for building things and digging holes. 20 minutes later, Ryan appeared on the screen from his base in Colorado. He was a big man with gray hair and calloused hands. Behind him, Jake could see several large mechs being worked on by teams of engineers. "I saw the news," Ryan said before Jake could speak. "Those alien things want to fight our mechs, right?" "That's right," Jake said. "What do we have that can fight those monsters?" Ryan was quiet for a long moment. He rubbed his chin and looked thoughtful. "Well, our mechs are tough, but they are not war machines. We have 12 operational units right now. Each one is about 30 feet tall. They have strong arms for lifting heavy things and good armor for protection from rocks and metal, but they do not have any real weapons." Jake felt his hope disappearing. "So we cannot fight them?" "I did not say that," Ryan replied with a small smile. "Give me a few hours to think about this. I might have an idea." While Ryan worked on his plan, Jake called a meeting with Earth's leaders. Presidents, prime ministers, and generals from around the world appeared on screens in the command center. Everyone was talking at once. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to try to run away to other star systems. A few wanted to fight, even though they knew they would lose. Dr. Lisa Bennett was the smartest engineer on Jake's team. She was young, only 28 years old, but she had designed most of the technology on the space station. Lisa had been listening to all the arguments when she suddenly stood up. "What if we are thinking about this all wrong?" she said. Everyone stopped talking and looked at her. "The aliens said they want honorable combat, right? They want a fair fight between warriors. But what if we do not treat this like a war? What if we treat it like something else?" "What do you mean?" Jake asked. Lisa walked over to the big screen and started drawing on it with her finger. "Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years, but we also turned fighting into games. We have boxing, wrestling, martial arts competitions. We make sports out of everything. What if we turn this alien challenge into the biggest sporting event in human history?" The room was quiet as everyone thought about what she had said. "Think about it," Lisa continued. "The aliens expect us to meet them with fear and desperation. They expect traditional warfare. But what if we show up with cameras, commentators, and cheering crowds? What if we turn their invasion into entertainment?" Jake stared at her. It was the craziest idea he had ever heard. It was also the only idea that might actually work. 2 hours later, Ryan Murphy called back. His smile was bigger this time. "I talked to my team," he said. "We can modify our construction mechs for combat in about 18 hours. We cannot make them as advanced as the alien machines, but we can make them tough and give them some basic weapons. The real question is, who is going to pilot them?" Jake was about to answer when Lisa stepped forward again. "I know exactly who should pilot them," she said. "We need people who are not afraid of giant robots. We need people who have been training for this their whole lives without knowing it." "What do you mean?" Ryan asked. "Video game players," Lisa said. "The best mech combat pilots on Earth are probably sitting in their bedrooms right now, playing robot fighting games. They know how to move big machines, how to fight tactically, and how to stay calm under pressure. Most importantly, they will think this is the coolest thing that has ever happened." Jake thought about it. Most of Earth's military pilots were trained to fly small, fast ships. They had never controlled anything as big as a mech. But millions of humans spent hours every day playing games where they controlled giant robots in combat. "Do it," Jake said. "Contact the gaming companies and find the best players. Set up trials and pick 12 pilots. Also start calling news networks. If we are going to turn this into a show, we need to do it right." Within 6 hours, the story was on every news channel on Earth. Alien invasion becomes ultimate gaming championship. Social media exploded with videos, memes, and commentary. Millions of people started placing bets on whether humans could win. The aliens had expected fear and panic. Instead, they saw humans setting up cameras and selling merchandise. They had wanted to conquer Earth, but humans were turning their invasion into the ultimate reality show. Admiral Vextar watched the human preparations from his command ship. He did not understand what he was seeing, but he knew one thing for certain. These humans were unlike any species his empire had ever encountered. The Nevada desert had never seen anything like it. 24 hours after the aliens gave their challenge, thousands of humans were working in the middle of nowhere. Giant trucks carried steel beams and concrete blocks across the sand. Helicopters dropped equipment from the sky. The empty desert was becoming the biggest construction site on Earth. Colonel Ben Williams stood on a small hill watching all the activity. He had built military bases all over the world, but this was different. This was not just a place for fighting. This was going to be a stadium where the whole world would watch humans fight for their survival. Ben talked into his radio. "Move those bleachers 50 feet to the left." We need clear sight lines for all the cameras. He looked at his watch. They had 16 hours left before the aliens would arrive. 3 miles away, Pete Anderson was having the best day of his career. Pete had organized racing events for 20 years. He had seen crowds of 200,000 people and managed events that cost millions of dollars. But this was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. "Put the food trucks in a circle around the whole area," Pete shouted to his team. "I want hot dogs, pizza, burgers, and those alien-themed drinks the company just invented. Also, make sure we have enough parking for 50,000 cars." Pete's phone rang every 30 seconds. TV networks wanted the best camera positions. Companies wanted to sell alien invasion merchandise. Famous singers wanted to perform at the opening ceremony. Everyone in the world wanted to be part of this event. Meanwhile, the alien ships moved closer to Earth. Admiral Vex Tar stood in his command room looking at pictures of the Nevada desert. He could not understand what the humans were doing. "Admiral," said one of his officers, "the humans appear to be building some kind of ceremonial structure around the battle zone." Vex Tar studied the images more carefully. He saw humans putting up tall metal poles with colorful flags. They were building raised platforms that looked like they were designed for many people to sit and watch. There were also small buildings being constructed all around the area. "Perhaps this is how humans honor their warriors before battle," Vex Tar said. "Many species have pre-combat rituals. We must respect their customs." What Vex Tar did not know was that humans were not building temples or honor monuments. They were building the biggest sports stadium ever made, complete with giant screens, sound systems, and snack bars. Back on Earth, the pilot selection was happening at a military base in Texas. Sergeant Kate Thompson was in charge of finding 12 humans who could fight alien war machines. But instead of looking for soldiers, she was interviewing video game players, construction workers, and stunt drivers. The first candidate was Charlie Davis, a 25-year-old man from Ohio who had won the World Mech Combat Gaming Championship 3 years in a row. Charlie sat across from Kate wearing a t-shirt with a robot on it. "So Charlie," Kate said, "you have never piloted a real mech before." "No, ma'am," Charlie replied, "but I have logged over 8,000 hours in mech combat simulators. I know every fighting technique, every weak point on standard mech designs, and every trick for getting out of bad situations." Kate looked at Charlie's test scores. His reaction time was faster than most fighter pilots. His spatial awareness was perfect. His hand-eye coordination was incredible. "What would you do if your mech's left arm got damaged in combat?" Kate asked. Charlie smiled. "Switch to single arm. Combat mode, use the damaged arm as a shield, and try to get close enough for a tackle. Most pilots panic when they lose an arm, but it just means you have to change your fighting style." Kate made a note on her paper. This kid was not afraid. He was excited. The next candidate was Emma Clark, a 30-year-old crane operator from Seattle. Emma had been controlling giant machines for 10 years. She could pick up a coin with a 60-foot crane arm. "Emma," Kate said, "how do you stay calm when operating heavy machinery?" "You do not fight the machine," Emma answered. "You become part of it. When I am in a crane, I do not think about buttons and levers. I just think about what I want to do, and the machine does it. It becomes like another part of my body." Kate nodded. That was exactly what they needed. By the end of the day, Kate had selected 12 pilots. They were not soldiers, but they were perfect for this job. Each pilot had different skills. Some were great at strategy. Others were amazing at quick reactions. A few were just incredibly good at staying calm under pressure, while Kate picked pilots. Tony Martinez was working 18-hour days to prepare the mechs. Tony was the best engineer at Ryan Murphy's company. He had designed construction equipment that could work in space, underwater, and on other planets. Now he had to turn those machines into fighters. "We cannot match the aliens' weapons," Tony explained to his team. Their energy guns are too advanced. But we can make our mechs tougher and give them weapons that work differently. Tony's team removed the construction tools from 12 mechs and replaced them with armor plating taken from old military tanks. They added rocket launchers borrowed from the army and laser cutters designed for mining operations. The human mechs looked rough and patched together, but they were strong. The alien mechs are built for precision and efficiency, Tony said. Our mechs are built to take damage and keep fighting. We may not be prettier, but we will be harder to kill. The most important change Tony made was in the control systems. He modified the pilot interfaces to work more like video game controllers. Most military vehicles had hundreds of switches and buttons that took years to learn. The human mechs would be controlled with joysticks, trigger buttons, and simple commands. Any good gamer should be able to figure this out in a few hours, Tony told Ryan Murphy. On the second day, news crews from every country arrived in Nevada. The temporary city growing around the battle zone now had its own airport, police force, and hospital. Danny Roberts and Maria Gonzalez, the most famous sports commentators in America, set up their broadcasting booth with the best view of the arena. This is either going to be the greatest day in human history or the last day in human history, Danny said to Maria as they tested their microphones. Maybe both, Maria replied. The alien ships finally entered Earth's atmosphere. 12 massive dropships separated from the main fleet and headed toward Nevada. Each dropship carried one Zephyrian war mech and its pilot. Admiral Vextar's ship landed first. He stepped out wearing full battle armor and looked around at what the humans had built. There were 50,000 people sitting in metal bleachers, cheering and holding colorful signs. Large screens showed close-up pictures of his ship. Music was playing from giant speakers. Vextar had conquered 17 worlds. He had seen species beg for mercy, fight desperately for survival, and try to run away in terror. But he had never seen anything like this. The humans were acting like this with some kind of celebration. A human soldier approached Vextar. Admiral, welcome to Earth. We have prepared viewing areas for your officers and translators so they can watch the combat. We also have refreshments available. Vextar looked at the soldier with confusion. Refreshments? Food and drink, sir. We thought your people might get hungry during the extended combat sessions. Extended combat sessions. The humans were planning for this to last a long time. They were not planning to surrender quickly or die heroically. They were planning to put on a show. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Vextar began to wonder if the Zephyrian Empire had made a mistake coming to this strange little planet. The sun was rising over Nevada when the biggest crowd in human history began to gather. Cars stretched for miles in every direction. Buses from every major city brought people who wanted to see history happen. Private jets landed at Temporary Airport every few minutes, carrying world leaders, celebrities, and billionaires who had paid enormous amounts of money for the best seats. Admiral Vextar watched all of this from his command ship. He had expected to find human warriors preparing quietly for their final battle. Instead, he saw what looked like a massive festival. Humans were wearing bright colors and carrying signs with words he did not understand. Many had painted their faces with strange symbols. Admiral, said his communications officer, the humans are requesting that we participate in something called opening ceremonies. Vextar looked at the translated message on his screen. The humans wanted both sides to march into the arena together while music played. They wanted speeches from leaders. They wanted something called the National Anthem of Earth to be sung by a famous human female. This is highly irregular, Vextar said, but we will honor their customs. What Vextar did not realize was that Earth did not have a national anthem. The humans had written one just for this day, and it was designed to pump up the crowd and make everyone feel proud and excited. Down in the arena, Danny Roberts and Maria Gonzalez were getting ready to broadcast to the largest television audience in history. Every person on Earth with access to a screen was watching. Even people in remote villages had gathered around radios to listen. "Good morning, Earth," Danny said into his microphone. "This is Danny Roberts, and I am here with Maria Gonzalez to bring you the most important sporting event ever held. Today, 12 human pilots will climb into their mechs and fight for the future of our entire planet." "That's right, Danny," Maria added. "The stakes could not be higher, but our pilots are ready. They have trained for this moment their entire lives, even if they did not know it until 3 days ago." The first part of the ceremony was the parade of mechs. The 12 Zephyrian war machines entered the arena first. Each one was a masterpiece of alien engineering. They moved with perfect precision, their metal surfaces polished to mirror brightness. Strange symbols glowed along their arms and legs. Every step they took made the ground shake. The crowd fell silent as the alien mechs lined up in perfect formation. These machines had conquered worlds. They looked like nothing on Earth could stop them. Then the human mechs entered the arena. And everything changed. The first human mech was piloted by Charlie Davis, the video game champion from Ohio. Charlie had painted his mech bright yellow with black racing stripes. Flames were painted along the sides. On the chest, in big letters, were the words "Bulldozer." Charlie's mech did not walk into the arena. It ran, jumped, and slid to a stop right in front of the crowd. Charlie climbed out of his mech's cockpit and waved to the cheering people. He was wearing a bright yellow jumpsuit that matched his mech. He signed autographs for kids who had climbed over the barriers. He posed for pictures with fans. He acted like he was at a party, not preparing to fight for his life. The other human pilots followed Charlie's example. Emma Clark's mech was painted forest green with a picture of a honey badger on the shoulder. Sam Johnson from Detroit had painted his mech to look like the American flag. Each pilot had given their mech a nickname and decorated it to show their personality. The difference between the two sides was incredible. The alien mechs looked like they belonged in a museum of deadly weapons. The human mechs looked like they belonged at a carnival. Admiral Vextar climbed down from his command ship to get a closer look at the human preparations. He wore his full dress uniform, covered with medals from dozens of battles. His forearms carried ceremonial weapons that had been passed down through his family for generations. Human soldier met Vextar at the edge of the arena. "Admiral, we would like to invite you to say a few words to the crowd before the combat begins." Vextar was confused. "You want me to speak to your people?" "Yes, sir. It is traditional in our sporting events for both sides to make speeches." Vextar had given many speeches before battles, but always to his own troops. He had never spoken to the people he was about to conquer. But these humans seemed to think it was important, so he agreed. A small platform was set up in the center of the arena. Vextar walked to the microphone while 50,000 humans watched him. He could hear his words being translated and broadcast around Earth. "People of Earth," Vextar began, "I am Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. We have come to your world as conquerors, but we offer you the honor of battle first. Your warriors will face ours in single combat. When we are victorious, your people will serve the Empire, but you will serve with dignity because you faced us with courage." The crowd was quiet for a moment. Then something unexpected happened. They started applauding. Vextar had just told them he planned to enslave their entire species, and they were clapping for him. "Thank you, Admiral," came a voice over the speakers. Jake Harrison had walked onto the platform. "Now, on behalf of Earth, I would like to say that we appreciate you giving us this chance to fight. We know your mechs are more advanced than ours. We know your pilots are experienced warriors. But we have something you might not expect." Jake paused and looked around at the crowd. "We have home field advantage. And we have something else. We have been preparing for this fight our whole lives. Every human child has dreamed about piloting giant robots. Every human teenager has spent hours playing games where they control mechs in combat. Every human adult has imagined what it would be like to be the hero who saves the world. The crowd was getting louder. Jake raised his voice. Today, that dream becomes real. Today, 12 of our people get to live out the ultimate fantasy. They get to climb into giant robots and fight to save Earth. And the best part is, we get to. Watch, now the crowd was roaring. People were on their feet, cheering and screaming. So let's make this the greatest show in the history of any world, Jake shouted. Let's give these aliens something they will never forget. Let's show them what happens when you challenge humanity to a game. Jake turned to Admiral Vextar. May the best pilots win. Vextar stared at Jake. In all his years of conquest, no one had ever called war a game. No one had ever seemed excited about being invaded. These humans were unlike anything in the galaxy. The opening ceremony ended with something that confused the aliens even more. A human female sang a song while both sides stood at attention. The song was about freedom, courage, and never giving up. By the end, many humans in the crowd were crying, but they were happy tears. Then 12-year-old Lucy Martinez, the daughter of Chief Engineer Tony Martinez, walked to the center of the arena. She was wearing a small spacesuit and carrying a specially made coin that was half human design and half Zephyrian design. I flipped this coin to see who fights first, Lucy announced in a clear, brave voice. She threw the coin high into the air. 50,000 people watched it spin in the sunlight. When it landed, Lucy picked it up and showed it to both sides. Humans go first, she said. Charlie Davis climbed back into his yellow mech. Across the arena, the Zephyrian champion Kexvar powered up his war machine. Both mechs walked to the center of the fighting area and faced each other. The greatest battle in Earth's history was about to begin, and everyone was treating it like the ultimate sporting event. Charlie Davis sat in the cockpit of his yellow mech, looking across the arena at his opponent. Kexvar, the Zephyrian champion, piloted a sleek silver war machine that had never lost a battle. The alien mech was taller, faster, and carried weapons that could destroy buildings. Charlie's mech looked like a construction vehicle that someone had painted bright colors on. "Pilots ready," announced the referee over the speakers. "This is a single elimination match. Combat continues until one mech cannot continue fighting. Begin." The crowd fell silent as both mechs started moving. Kexvar moved his mech with perfect military precision. Every step was calculated. Every movement was efficient. He raised his plasma cannon and fired at Charlie's mech. Charlie saw the energy blast coming and did something no military pilot would ever do. Instead of dodging properly, he made his mech do a cartwheel. The crowd exploded with cheers as Charlie's yellow mech rolled sideways across the sand, avoiding the alien weapon. "What was that?" Danny Roberts shouted into his microphone. "Did Charlie Davis just make a 40-foot robot do a cartwheel?" "He sure did, Danny," Maria Gonzalez replied. "That is not a standard combat maneuver, but it worked." Kexvar was confused. In 300 battles, no enemy had ever responded to his attack by doing acrobatics. He fired again, aiming where Charlie's mech would be after it finished rolling. But Charlie was not done surprising everyone. His mech completed the cartwheel and immediately jumped backward, using its construction-grade hydraulics to leap 20 feet through the air. The plasma blast hit empty sand. The crowd was going crazy. People were screaming and jumping up and down. This was better than any movie they had ever seen. Charlie landed and immediately charged at the alien mech. This was also not a standard military tactic. Most pilots would try to keep their distance and use ranged weapons. But Charlie treated the fight like a video game boss battle. He knew that getting close would make the aliens' big guns harder to use. Kexvar tried to back away, But Charlie's mech was surprisingly fast. Charlie grabbed the alien mech's weapon arm with both hands and held on tight. "He's wrestling with a war machine," Danny Roberts announced. "Charlie Davis is literally wrestling with a robot that conquered planets." Now both mechs were locked together, struggling for control. Kexvar tried to shake Charlie off, but Charlie had learned something from his years of gaming. When you cannot win with superior firepower, you win with superior creativity. Charlie's mech had mining lasers instead of military weapons. They were designed to cut through rock and metal. Charlie aimed his laser at the joint where the aliens' weapon arm connected to its body and fired. Sparks flew everywhere. The alien's plasma cannon fell to the ground, cut clean off. The crowd noise was so loud that pilots in both mechs could hear it through their armor. Kexvar had lost his primary weapon, but he was not finished. He still had backup weapons and years of combat experience, but something strange was happening to Kexvar. For the first time in his military career, he was enjoying a fight. The crowd's excitement was infectious. Charlie's unconventional tactics were actually fun to counter. Instead of feeling frustrated, Kexvar found himself wanting to impress the audience. When Charlie's mech came at him again, Kexvar did something he had never done before. He made his mech spin around and kick at Charlie with both legs. It was a move he had seen in human entertainment videos, not something from Zephyrian military training. The crowd loved it. They cheered for the alien pilot just as loudly as they had cheered for Charlie. Charlie's mech got knocked backward, but recovered quickly. He made his mech do a thumbs-up gesture toward the crowd, then charged again. The fight continued for 20 more minutes. Both mechs took damage. Both pilots tried moves they had never attempted before. Charlie treated it like the ultimate video game. Kexvar found himself playing along, trying techniques he had only seen in human sports. Finally, both mechs were so damaged they could barely move. Charlie's mech had lost its left arm. Kexvar's mech was missing its weapon systems and had a damaged leg. Both pilots climbed out of their cockpits and continued fighting on foot, but instead of trying to hurt each other, they ended up sitting in the sand, sharing water and talking about their mechs while medics checked their injuries. "Your laser cutter was very effective," Kexvar said through his translator. "I did not expect a mining tool to be so dangerous in combat." "Your spinning kick was amazing," Charlie replied. "How did you make something that big move so smoothly?" The crowd was chanting both. They wanted both pilots to be declared winners. The referee had never dealt with a situation like this. After 10 minutes of discussion, he announced that the match was a draw. Both pilots would advance to the next round. The second match was between Emma Clark and a Zephyrian warrior named Zektar. Emma's green mech faced off against a black alien war machine covered in battle scars. Emma had watched Charlie's fight carefully. She learned that the aliens were not used to pilots who treated combat like entertainment. She decided to take this even further. When the match began, Emma's mech did not attack. Instead, it started dancing. Emma made her 40-foot robot move to the rhythm of the music, playing over the arena speakers. Zektar was so confused that he forgot to attack. He just stood there watching a human war machine dance in front of 50,000 cheering people. "This is unprecedented," Maria Gonzalez announced. "Emma Clark is not fighting, she is performing." Emma's mech finished its dance with a deep bow toward the alien mech. Then it gestured for Zektar to try dancing too. Something incredible happened. Zektar, a veteran of 40 battles, made his war machine attempt to copy Emma's dance moves. The crowd went absolutely wild. For 5 minutes, both mechs danced together in the center of the arena. It was the strangest thing anyone had ever seen, but it was also beautiful. Two species that had never met before were communicating through movement and music. When they finally started fighting, it was different from any combat the galaxy had ever seen. They fought like they were putting on a performance for the crowd. They would attack, defend, counterattack, and then pause to acknowledge the audience's cheers. Emma's mech lost its main weapon early in the fight, but she kept going using construction, tools, and anything she could find in the arena. She picked up rocks and threw them. She used her mech's repair tools as weapons. She even drew victory symbols in the sand while dodging enemy fire. The crowd loved every minute of it. They were not watching a battle for survival. They were watching the greatest show ever performed. By the end of the day, 3 more matches had been fought. Each one was different. Each pilot brought their own style and personality to the combat. Some fights were won by humans, others were won by aliens. But every fight was won by entertainment. The most important change was happening in the alien pilots. They started adding decorative elements to their mechs. They began acknowledging crowd appreciation. They gave interviews to human reporters between matches. Admiral Vextar watched all of this from his command ship. His warriors were no longer acting like conquerors. They were acting like competitors. They cared more about putting on a good show than winning quickly. For the first time in his long military career, Vextar began to wonder if conquest was really the best way to interact with other species. These humans had turned warfare into something joyful. They had made his warriors want to be entertained rather than feared. The invasion was not going according to plan. But somehow, that was making it better than any plan could have been. 3 months after the first mech battles in Nevada, everything had changed. The Zephyrian fleet still orbited Earth, but they were no longer invaders. They were business partners. Admiral Vextar now called himself Commissioner Vextar, and he spent his days in meetings with human television executives, discussing broadcast schedules and advertising revenue. The empty desert in Nevada had become a permanent city. Millions of people from all over Earth came to watch the weekly mech fights. Hotels, restaurants, and entertainment centers surrounded the massive arena. The temporary stadium had been rebuilt 3 times, each version bigger than the last. Now, it could hold 200,000 spectators. Captain Greg Stone sat in his green and gold mech, waiting for the championship match to begin. Greg had been a construction foreman in Arizona before the aliens arrived. Now he was the most famous athlete on 2 planets. His mech, nicknamed Earthshaker, had won 12 fights in a row. Today he would face the Zephyrian champion, Nexdale. For the first official interstellar mech championship, the crowd was enormous. People had traveled from every country on Earth to see this fight. But even more exciting, aliens had come too. 3 different species had joined the Mech League after hearing about the incredible matches between humans and Zephyrians. The arena was filled with creatures that looked nothing like humans, all cheering for their favorite pilots. Greg looked across the arena at Nexdale's silver and blue mech. Nexdale had been a Zephyrian military commander for 30 years before discovering mech sports. His fighting style was still very military, but he had learned to add showmanship for the crowds. Both his mech and Greg's were covered with sponsor logos and team colors. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all species," announced the referee, "welcome to the first official Interstellar Mech Championship final match." The crowd noise was so loud it shook the ground. Danny Roberts and Maria Gonzalez were still the main commentators, but now they worked with alien announcers who explained the action for viewers on other worlds. "This is it, folks," Danny said into his microphone. "Human versus Zephyrian for the ultimate championship." Greg Stone, the construction worker who became Earth's greatest pilot, against Nexdale, the alien warrior who learned to love competition. The match began with both mechs moving slowly around each other. Greg knew that Nexdale was technically the better pilot. The alien had more experience and better training. But Greg had something that military schools did not teach. He had learned to read crowds and use their energy to fuel his performance. Greg made the first move, charging forward with his mech's plasma hammer raised high. Nexdale countered with a perfect defensive maneuver, blocking the attack and spinning away. Both pilots were holding back, testing each other's skills. Then Greg did something unexpected. He stopped attacking and made his mech wave to the crowd. 50,000 humans started chanting, "Greg, Greg," while alien spectators made their own species cheering sounds. Nextall responded by making his mech bow to Greg's mech, then to the alien section of the crowd. This was not military protocol. This was sportsmanship. The real fight began after that. Both mechs moved faster than anyone had ever seen before. Greg used every trick he had learned from gaming and construction work. Nextall used centuries of Zephyrian military knowledge combined with new techniques he had developed for entertainment fighting. The battle lasted for 45 minutes. Both mechs took incredible damage. Greg's mech lost its right leg, but kept fighting on one knee. Nextall's mech had its weapon systems damaged, but continued using hand-to-hand combat. Finally, both mechs were so destroyed they could not continue fighting. Greg and Nextall climbed out of their cockpits and met in the center of the arena. Instead of continuing the fight, they shook hands while 200,000 beings cheered. The judges declared the match a tie, making both pilots co-champions. Greg and Nextall raised their hands together while confetti fell from the sky, and fireworks exploded overhead. But the real celebration was just beginning. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, who now ran the Interspecies Athletic Commission, announced that the Mech League would expand to include 10 different alien species. Each species would have their own team, their own fighting styles, and their own home stadiums. The Zephyrian Empire had already converted 12 of their former military bases into mech training facilities. Young Zephyrians who once had no choice but to become soldiers could now become professional athletes. The Empire's entire economy was shifting from conquest to entertainment. Captain Noah Baker, a former human pilot who had retired after losing his mech's arm in a spectacular fight, had become the League's most popular commentator. He worked with alien partners to broadcast matches to dozens of worlds. Every broadcast made millions of dollars in advertising revenue. The funny thing, Noah said during a post-championship interview, is that we accidentally created the most profitable business in galactic history. The Zephyrians make more money from one mech fight than they used to make from conquering entire planets. The cultural changes went far beyond sports. Human and Zephyrian engineers worked together to design better mechs. Human entertainment companies partnered with alien corporations to create movies, games, and virtual reality experiences. Children from both species grew up, watching the same heroes and dreaming the same dreams. The most important change was in how conflicts were resolved. When the Thorian Republic tried to invade the Centauri colonies, instead of fighting a war, both sides agreed to settle their dispute with a mech tournament. The winner would get the contested territory, but the loser would get broadcasting rights and merchandise revenue. Everyone made money and no one died. Jake Harrison, now retired from military service, opened a small restaurant near the Nevada arena. He served food to humans and aliens who came to watch the matches. Sometimes he would look up at the alien ships in orbit and remember the day when those same ships had come to conquer Earth. "We could have fought them," Jake told a reporter one day. "We could have died as heroes defending our planet. Instead, we taught them that games are more fun than war. I think we made the right choice." Admiral Vextar, or Commissioner Vextar, as he preferred to be called now, had become one of the most respected beings in the galaxy. His decision to allow the mech competition instead of destroying Earth had revolutionized how different species interacted. He received peace awards from dozens of worlds. "Humans taught us something we had never considered," Vextar said in a speech to the Galactic Council. "They showed us that the best way to prove you are strong is not to destroy your enemies, but to turn them into friends who want to compete with you." The Mech League continued to grow. New species joined every year. Each brought their own fighting traditions and technological innovations. What had started as humanity's desperate attempt to survive had become the foundation for galactic civilization. On quiet evenings, when the arena was empty and the crowds had gone home, the ghost of that first terrifying Tuesday still lingered in the Nevada desert. But it was a good ghost now. It reminded everyone that sometimes the best way to face impossible odds is not with weapons or fear, but with creativity and the belief that everything, even the end of the world, can be turned into a game. And in the end, that was humanity's greatest victory. They had convinced an entire galaxy that playing together was better than fighting alone.